It's December 2014 in the low country of South Carolina, and something isn't right. Nestled comfortably on the banks of the May River, Palmetto Bluff is missing something.
When we went into this project, we were thinking 4 months, we'll bring it all the way up to Beaufort. Those guys will have it for 4 months, pull it right back off the hill, be right back in time for the season. That 4 months turned into 5, turned into 8, turned into 12, 14.
To tell this tale properly, we need to start, of course, at the beginning, 1912 to be exact, when the idea of a luxury wooden yacht was born. And by 1913, that idea had evolved into a beautiful 60-foot reality. Grace, named in honor of R.T. Wilson's sister, wife of Cornelius Vanderbilt III, is one of the last remaining pre-World War I gas-powered yachts in existence today. But, like all organic things, Grace aged.
Her keel was very shot. I mean, it was on its last legs for sure. All that timber that I replaced was laid in 1912 and it was done. It needed a new stern post and the whole aft keel needed to be replaced and the shaft log. And part of the horn timber inside the boat was gone. I had to replace that. I put in a new keel, new keelson, new floor timbers, redid the drivetrain, redid the steering, a lot of the plumbing, rehooked up the engine, put in the engine, new engine stringers, new engine beds.
Well, everything's built by hand. It's not like a fiberglass boat where they spray fiberglass in the mold and then pop the mold out and there's your hull. All of this was built from the keel up. Wood was specially selected for the keel, wood especially selected for the planks by the density of the wood. It was all hand hewn. Guys with tools that are just not around anymore that were putting this boat back together. Very time-consuming, painstaking efforts were made to ensure that the boat went back as close to its original configuration as it was 103 years ago.
We met with Nate Smith, who was the lead carpenter there, the lead shipwright at Morris Marine, and his team were the perfect individuals to accomplish this task. And what they did for the Grace, as far as the repairs to her keel, her keelson, it really is amazing. These guys, they call them shipwrights or carpenters, but at the end of the day, they were true artists. And I wouldn't trust a boat with anybody else other than Nate Smith and his team of carpenters. It may not have, all the bells and whistles of a modern day yacht, but what's most impressive of her is that men who built her over 100 years ago built her to a point where she is still around today. Now, we just came off of a huge restoration project, which we repaired a lot of that work that went into Grace initially when she was built, but there's surprisingly a lot left of her from her original foundation. So it speaks to the craftsmanship that was around 100 plus years ago.
It was very well made to start with. That's why it's still around. They built crappy boats back then that lasted 10 years. Well, it's the old expression, things of beauty preserve themselves.
The engine was taken out of the boat completely, taken to a shop, and completely rebuilt. And it has ran out of the boat on the shop floor, but this is the first time we have addressed the motor as it sits in the boat. We're trying to get fuel from the fuel tank in the stern to the motor here. and then get her cranked up. Turning the key, y'all ready? How about that? First crank. That's a good sign.
For a wooden hull that's been out of the water as long as Grace has, almost a year to the day, it's due for a good thorough inspection before they cast the lines off and move down the waterway.
The fact that she's not taking on water is very impressive, as well as a very good sign. So that's half the battle, you know, the hull was completely redone, and that's what the major work was done, underneath the water where we can't see. So today we start our journey on a beautiful morning here. 1 year and a few days ago, Captain Ed and myself traveled up the waterway from Beaufort, South Carolina, to Beaufort, North Carolina, to this boat yard, and we are very proud of her. To be captains is a privilege, and we are anxious to get going and take advantage of this window of beautiful weather here.
Well, the Grace is a very iconic piece of Americana. It has a very storied and historic past. Some of the people that have traveled on this boat, lived on this boat, worked on this boat for 100 years. And it's just something very special to be a part of.
We're here arriving Marsh Harbor up in Ladies Island here in Beaufort, South Carolina. It's hard to miss the Grace, and it could be in a absolutely packed marina, but the Grace and her elegance and her uniqueness stands out every single time. And even though she could be surrounded by yachts that are $2-3 million, you know, and they have all the modern bells and whistles, there's nothing more sexy than the lines on that Grace. Looks pretty good for a 100-year-old lady, right? There's a lot of excited people waiting for her return. Palmetto Bluff is a unique environment that is different than any place in the country, and it's special. The Grace is just the same. It's a unique vessel in our country, and the two complement each other very well. I think restoring the Grace really speaks volumes to the men and women who developed Palmetto Bluff, who organized that community and recognized that that boat is just as special as the property that she belongs to. And the two are a very good marriage of each other. They complement each other. Just the uniqueness both of the Grace itself and her history, but the property and the history of Palmetto Bluff. It's a great marriage of the two.
At long last, Grace is home.